Whoa. I'm looking at that movement yesterday, and it looks like it made a correction and shot straight back up. I'm glad I got out when I did. Got some big volume right now in this opening. Price hasn't touched the gold zone, so it's probably going to touch one of these. And that correction going back up put us right back above the 500. Massive volume. We got the volume to the top, then we just got rejection. Seeing that trend line that Ruben was talking about yesterday, we are way above it now. So we're kind of, we tried to get out of Asia and London, right? Like the range of Asia and London. We tried to get out of it, but we just rejected the top. Kinda just gotta give it some time. We haven't touched a gold zone, so we're gonna get magnetized towards one of them. I need some water real quick. What are we doing? What are we doing? Got that little uptrend that we're supporting off of. So that 630 candle is pretty much making our range right now. We just need to wait for price to break out of that. The only reason why I feel like, oh well, we have previous day R2. See, look at that. Yesterday when we dropped, we bounced all the way back up through R1, through R2. We made a little W there. That W was pretty much when we got off, actually. That's when, and see, that's where usually we would expect the full R1 to P movement. But, right, we look left, and that's all where we ranged. We had talked about that too. But it was the low of Asia, this weird area that price supported, and price never broke. And look at that, the entire time we made this W, price was heavily oversold. And then look at that, there's only like one candle that pushes us up and above perp, and then price stays up and above perp. That's why I think perp is so powerful, guys. Like, pay attention to perp, because perp can pay the bills, right? Perp was the reason why I got into the downside. And then look at that, there's only one candle that pushes us above perp yesterday. It is at 8:55. I was already done, but legit, there's only one candle that pushes us above perp, and then from there price stays above perp the entire day. That's why I like perp. And being that we haven't touched the gold zone yet, I am, feeling like we're going to. Because that's what we do. Price always touches the gold zone. Right now everything's kind of tilted upwards, so that's where I'm kind of thinking price will probably end up going. Kind of look like price is stuck right here though. And similar to other days, well, we just gotta wait to see which side we break out to. Yeah, pretty much just the R2, right? This R2 area. Previous day R2 area. But, I mean, we haven't touched the gold zone. Things are tilting upwards. You know, we should kind of have an idea of where we are expecting price to go. Minimum, as long as we can break this area. Right? And we use that knowing that this is an area that was a high. We use it for a non-biased decision, right? Just as much as we would want to buy up if we break it, that's the same reason why we would sell off if we reject it, right? Remember, we gotta be super non-biased about the decisions we make, accepting the fact that it could be a loser, knowing that it's just going to be the opposite that's the winner. But if we're looking at things, right, like what is price trying to fight currently? Currently, price is fighting to break out of the current high of the day. That's one. Then we stack everything else on there. So if price doesn't want to break through this level, then there's a whole bunch of reasons to believe, you know, to sell off. Looking at yesterday, so good. In a way, sometimes I wish I stayed on the entire day, but I'm fine. But I'm looking at that. Only 855, man. 855 is the only candle that pushes us up back above perp, and then we stay above perp the entire day. See, and that's what makes it dangerous. You know, we drew the 4 hour or that 1 hour downtrend line that price respects and breaks back down into, but then we also traded with the 500. So it gets tough, because you can imagine after price is underneath the 500 and it's broken down, and then price gets back above perp, you know, we're going to be afraid to take the buy against the 500 now that price is under it. But how do we fix that, and how do we be confident with taking it up? Well, you take one contract at 855 and you kind of just wait for price to break the 500 again. Once it does, you can add contracts there and still ride that up to the gold zone. So remember, guys, don't don't panic, right? Don't panic adding contracts. Do not add contracts hoping it's going to go the direction that you were expecting it. Make sure you're using the data, right? All of our decisions are data-driven decisions. Try not to let your emotions get involved, right? This is not a gamble. The moment that you start doing things outside of the strategy, well, now we're gambling, and that's not what we want to do. Give it reasons. And when you backtest, right, why we backtest is to build confidence and understand what we're doing. Understand, like, just like this right here, right? Just like this right here at 855 yesterday. If you entered into one contract and then added when we broke the 500, or added as we retested and then shot back up, there's still so much money to be made between the break of the downtrend or the break of the 500 before price goes up. Like, there's a lot of room to make money there. So don't feel rushed to add contracts. Know that when we get into our entry, like, our entries are usually very spot on with the trend, with wherever the trend is. So know that, if we're going to be right, that means there's going to be a decent amount of running that price is going to do. So there's room. There's room to run. There's room to add contracts. Have reasoning behind why you're adding contracts. You're not just adding contracts because it feels good, right? We're not just adding because it feels good. We're adding because it makes sense. Follow the data. Let the data guide us. So we're here once again. Price is tilting upwards, but we're still getting some range. Kind of nothing to do. I mean, we're just stuck in between the 630 candle, which is roughly probably about 1,000 pips. About 957, yeah. So today's game plan is to just wait for it to break out. Wait for it to get out of that 630 candle. That's not difficult to do, guys. Remember, that is not difficult to do. Just wait for that bitch to break out. And then pay attention to things, right? Pay attention to everything that leads up to the breakout. It'll confirm whichever direction you're expecting it to go. So we've got some resistance here. Price is kind of back down at this uptrend that we have here that was formed during London. Nas looks like it wants to break to the downside. Nas is oversold though. US30 is fighting this trend. So we got support there once again. Structure is currently up. Price went down to tap it. Now we're kind of getting a support right there. Now we're getting a lot of support. Remember, price hasn't touched the gold zone yet, so it's going to go to one of them. And if the current structure is up, what do you think is likely to happen? We are making a little wedge. Remember, we're back above the 500. We're back above that 4-hour trend line that Ruben had. So we might be back into the uptrend. Got some pressure to the top. Volume upside. Looking pretty strong. Looking like we want to push to the top. That would make sense. Give us that push to the gold zone. Oh, oh, oh. Got some volume in this candle. 35 seconds left. Price still supporting perp. Even Nas is making its way up. Nas is still stuck in its little open range. We're still kind of stuck in our open range. 630 candle is what we're fighting. Literally is what we're fighting. That's 630 wick to the top. Oh, why is my cross lines up there? Oops. There we go. Still fighting to get above this same area. Got some resistance now. Man, last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday was such easy days. And then I get on this week and shit's all slow. The fuck? Come on. But I mean, look at it, right? Just look at the way price is going. You'd have to be blind to not see where price is likely to go right now, especially knowing that we haven't touched any gold zones. Do we have any news today? Oh, we had news earlier. Support to the bottom there. No, we're still rejecting. Nas has hit a roof too. Maybe we don't want to break. You know, and just like yesterday, how price came like 90% down to the gold zone and then bounced up. Like I tell you guys, these gold zones are zones. Price doesn't always go all the way up to it. Sometimes it doesn't go all the way down to it like yesterday. But it did support off of a level and then shot straight up. So here we are at this level. Price is not breaking it. We're still within the 630 candle. Patience. Patience.
loves. I hope y'all are happy.
Shut up.
And
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Big rejection. Remember, control your emotions during these times. Control your emotions, control your patience. Just, you gotta be disciplined. There's nothing to it. There's nothing I can do. Maybe put a gun to your guys' heads. That's it. But you gotta just be disciplined. You gotta be disciplined to do nothing. Big rejection there. Well, maybe we don't want to break this level. Right? And at a certain point, we know price is going to go somewhere. So if we're not breaking this level, yep, a lot of volume. What time is it? 7:06 only? That's weird. It's not normal. So we got Nas making its way down. We got price still supporting that uptrend. So price is still supporting the uptrend. Big wick to the bottom. I could hear you. It was really soft though, so I couldn't tell if you were talking to us or not. So big support there.
you allowed to use your mic in the chat or no?
I mean, sure.
Okay. I feel like everyone's always typing, but
Well, just because it starts to get really, when a lot of people are talking, it becomes a mess.
okay.
That's why most people, yeah. But no, I mean, feel free. If it's easier to talk, or talk whenever you want to talk, you're more than welcome to. So big support here off this uptrend still. We're still above perp. There's really not much to do. See, we got volume pushing in now. Right? If we're thinking based off of deduction, all of these candles that are happening all supported the bottom. So if price doesn't want to go down, then price probably wants to go up. But there's still the range there's still only about 1,000 pips that we've moved since open. 993. So wherever we break out of there, right? Because look at the average. From the very low to the very high of right now, we've only moved 1,800 pips. If we even move a normal, average 3, 4, 5,000 pips, wherever we break out of this area that we're stuck in right here, we're bound to go a minimum of another 1,000 to 2,000 pips, right? So that's what keeps me calm and patient when we're in situations like this, is once again, let the data guide me, right? There's room for movement after we break out of this area. and I'll wait for that. Because making the decision on any of these candles here is death. It's death. There's going to be one. There's always one that speaks to us. Yeah, but we're still just stuck here. Son of a bitch. Oh, blah, 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 blah.
Monday, November 10th, 6:30 New York Open gives us a rejection of R1 gold zone. Price does reject, takes a little while to break the 500 MA, stays underneath perp and drops down. My entry here is at 735. As price is dropping through the 500, I'm being careful that price breaks through the low of the day. As price gets through the low of the day and hits the next level, I am moving stop loss into profit 350, taking 1050 from this day. Juice Strat, baby, head out. What's up, baby?
Bueno, 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 bueno. What are we doing? We're still respecting perp. We're on perp right now. Swing, swing, swing from the table side. My heart is stuck by a form of love. Okay, you. See, and I'm looking at both indices right now, and they're both running opposite, which is not abnormal. Oh shit. Buzzingo. So still supporting perp. So slow. Come on.
All right, today we're diving into something pretty wild, a brand new budget proposal for the UK. But what makes this one so different? well. It's designed as if a hyper-intelligent AI were calling the shots, using nothing but pure cold logic to re-engineer the entire economy from the...
You know what's crazy is consulting companies ended up being huge over the past decade. It's pretty much just bullshit, but some of these consulting firms that like consult the government and huge companies, they were using like ChatGPT and shit to to make recommendations. And these are people who control like trillions of dollars. It's insane. They're getting caught. But well, there's nothing you can do. You paid them. You paid them, you silly fools. Where is the sound?
And believe me, it is a giant problem. This isn't about small tweaks or clever accounting tricks.
The entire blueprint, every single policy, is designed to tackle it. AI were calling the shots, using nothing but pure cold logic to re-engineer the entire economy from the ground up. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you could strip away all the politics, all the short-term thinking, all the messy human compromises that go into a national budget? What would you be left with? This proposal, which they're calling the Gemini Mandate, is basically an attempt to answer that very question. And it all starts by zeroing in on the single biggest challenge the UK is facing right now. And believe me, it is a giant problem. This isn't about small tweaks or clever accounting tricks. The entire blueprint, every single policy, is designed to tackle a deep, fundamental crisis brewing in the UK's public finances. £21 billion. That's the number. That is the size of the structural hole in the UK's finances. And look, this isn't a gap because of some new spending promise. This is way scarier. It's because of a really grim new assessment of the country's entire long-term economic potential. So, let's break this down. Where on earth does a £21 billion problem even come from? Well, it turns out it's a fiscal crisis that's been building up for years, kind of like a pressure cooker. And here's what's inside that pressure cooker. It all starts with a major downgrade to the UK's productivity forecast. Now, here's the crazy part. For every tiny 0.1% drop in projected growth, the government has to borrow another £7 billion. And with national debt already pushing 100% of GDP, there's just no wiggle room left. So, faced with this mess, how would an AI solve it? Well, it's not about a few cuts here or a few tax hikes there. No, it operates
Bro.
on a single, incredibly powerful idea.
You know, I've been following UK's economy too, and yeah, it's a fucking mess. It's a mess because they were I mean, for the majority of UK's life, they've been trying to copy our economy, and just it's a mess. Fuck, it's a mess.
Operates on a single, incredibly powerful idea.
But the
core doctrine that guides every single decision.
You know, like I think I've went over it with you guys before, but the reason why nobody will ever be like the US, because no matter how shitty of a country we might be, our geography makes us untouchable. It really makes us untouchable. You know, like, and not even just like with military and war, like the way we're set up with Canada above us and Mexico below us, and then we got two of the biggest fucking oceans in between us and the next, you know, what is from the west coast to the left to the west, it's not until fucking Asia, and then on the east coast to the UK. Like, there's so much room in between. But why that's important is because, well, first of all, nobody's gonna attack us without us knowing, unless it was like back in fucking Japan day, where Japan bombed us. But now we got technology. But then when it comes to trade, like import export, we have so much. We have so many options. Gulf of Mexico, everywhere in the west, everywhere on the east. It's perfect. And that's the only reason why I think our shit's always going to be inflated and nobody's going to touch us, because at the end of the day, we have every option, every different option to just continue importing and exporting, which is a good and a bad thing. But places like the UK doesn't have that much, you know, because it's kind of one side is landlocked next to other countries and shit, whereas the US only has Canada above it, Mexico below it, and that's kind of it, and then everything else is ocean. So yeah, it's a fucked up monopoly we have here, but it's all geography. Like, it's not like our fault, we just got lucky here. And that's something I think about too, you know, because like back in the day when the Europeans came and took this land, I'm like, did they know it was like this? Or like, you know, like at what point were they like, this is the best place for us to pillage? This is the best place for us to come and just steal. Nobody's ever talked about that in the history books. About at what point did they realize geographically this would be the most optimal place to like steal.
Core doctrine that guides every single decision in the plan. This right here, this is the Munger doctrine, and it is the absolute key to understanding the whole thing. The AI's core belief is that big economic problems, like low investment or housing shortage, they aren't just random failures. They are the perfectly predictable results of a badly designed system of incentives. So what do we mean by incentives? They're basically the invisible rewards and penalties that guide our behavior. A tax break is an incentive to invest, right? A high tax on cigarettes is a penalty, a disincentive to smoke. The AI's argument is simple. If you get the incentives right, the good economic outcomes will just happen. So if you look at it through this AI's purely logical lens, the UK doesn't really have a productivity problem or a housing crisis. It has an incentive problem. The system is actually rewarding the...
You know, when I was in
sitting on valuable
the airport in Vietnam, I met some people that live out there west of London. Where did he say he lives? I still talk to him now. But they were so cool. Like, just nice people. Like, they reminded me of some of my family back home in Hawaii. No, they're deeper than that. They were, let me see. He texted it to me. But they're in a college town, and they have an art supply store. Let me see here. Where is he? Ramin Afshin. Maybe it's Bristol? Is it Bristol? Whatever he said it's a big college town. Well, not a big college town, but he said a lot of people go there for the college that's there. And then he said there's a ton of Koreans that go there. Where is it? Bristol sounds familiar. Yeah, I'm not sure, but cool. Older couple, older couple that was just. They said that every year they spend some time in Asia, just traveling around, and they're trying to sell their art studio that they have over there. What the heck is the name of it? But yeah, I mean it's just a random fucking thing that I'm saying. But it was cool because like, I mean every time I go to the airport and I go to like one of the lounges, I'm always just trying to make friends, talk to people, and then how I started talking to these people, this old couple, they came into the lounge and then there was no chairs that they could both sit in, so I gave up my little booth to them, and they were like, oh, you're so nice, nobody's a gentleman anymore. I was like, I got you. It's like, there's no way I'm gonna let you guys sit separated, you guys came in as a couple. So I gave up my booth and they were like, yeah, take my number, let's keep in touch. If you're ever out this way, come see us. I'm like, down. I'm down. It's always nice making friends around the world. I don't remember. I gotta ask him again where exactly he is. But he had showed me, and yeah, it was like a college town. But yeah, wait, I know it was. He said it was like 1 hour and a half or so away from London. So we got price making its push up. That's pretty normal. We're expecting it to go to one of these gold zones. It was tilting up. We're almost about 90% there to the gold zone. I'm in it, but I'm only in it like at one lot size. I don't have any safe place to add contracts just yet, so I'm writing out the one contract just to, build my confidence in the perp line, right? This entire day, price has stayed above perp, and that's what I believed in. I believed in perp. I believed in price getting magnetized towards one of these gold zones. Little resistance here. If we get pushed back into this area, I'll just exit. But if we're thinking average day, at some point we're going to hit this R1. And you guys got to remember, the consistency part, you can only stay consistent if you haven't dug yourself a deep hole. Right? So if you guys are digging deep holes with bad entries, just stick to one lot size. I know it might feel not rewarding, but you guys got to keep stepping back and look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is to not smack home runs every day. The bigger picture is to just put some money in your bank every day. Let that bitch blow up. Then you can smack some home runs every once in a while. Because while you're just chipping away every day, you're not going to realize that some of those days are going to be home runs, right? And I've told you guys this before. If you expect a run, you're highly likely to lose, because when it doesn't run, you get brain fucked. And then that goes into the next day, and it's never good. It's never a good thing. So we got price pretty much 99% there to the gold zone. And how do I know it's going to go up? I don't know 100%, right? Even at 630, when price pushed up, and then when I saw 635, I'm like, well, what do we know? We know that price didn't touch any gold zones. We know that price will get magnetized towards one of these gold zones. We know that price is above perp. We know that price is in an uptrend structure. We know that price is above the 4-hour trend line that Ruben talked about yesterday. Like, all of that is indication that price is probably likely to go up. It's not the best setup, right? It's not the best setup with how price ranged at open, but it is enough that you guys gotta, make a decision on where you think price is gonna go, right? That's our job. Our job with trading is to figure out up or down. Literally, how that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. Our job is just to figure out up or down. It makes me feel like I'm a caveman or something, Ed find where price go. Ed think price go up. Ed think price go down. Like, our shit is so simple. So we got price pretty much here touching R1. I'm going to watch this closely to see if we reject. We're starting to go, we've been kind of towards the top side of cross lines, so I'm not in profit very much. Because I'm only at one lot size, I'm like at $30 in profit. But the dollar amount doesn't matter, right? The pip count matters. Because it's a shitty setup, well, I'm gonna be at a lower dollar amount. But the dollar amount doesn't faze me, right? I'm okay to make $30 today. Because what does that do? It builds my confidence in what I'm doing. And then on the day that we get the beautiful setup, would you have full ported? I probably would have. And I considered it too. And I'm glad you asked. Because I know you know. You guys all know already. You guys know how I trade. You guys know what I trade. You guys know what I look for. You guys know it all. Yeah. And looking at because at like 635, that's pretty much where I entered in, and I just held it this entire time. Like even as like what candle was this? 705. 705 came dangerously close to tapping me out, but I'm not worried because it's one contract, and I'm also not worried because if price breaks there, well, that's where we'll probably end up coming down. I'll take a sell, and I'll make up my loss. So remember, like this shit's foolproof. If you guys like thoroughly play out the juice, it's a foolproof plan to get us through the bad, as long as you practice some patience, you know. And even like so, for me, I don't know if anybody answered in, but for me, my patience part, because I was already entered in at 635, my patience is watching price on perp, right? If price ever rejects perp hard and comes down, well, that's where I'll have to either manage my entry, right? I'm gonna exit, maybe take a small loss, maybe take a small winner, maybe take a break even, whatever. But that's where my patience and discipline comes into play, is to just let price do what it wants to do. Make a decision. Price is gonna stay above perp. Well, I'll stay in my buy until it figures out what it wants to do, and I know it's likely to go up because, well, price didn't touch a gold zone, right? It falls back to the fundamental gold zone movement. Everything, my entry is just in support of the gold zone movement. That's it. Yeah, I would have full ported that fucking 630 though, because that would have been. And why, right? Let's look at the reasons why. We're in an uptrend structure. We haven't touched the gold zone. Shit's tilting up. Asia and London session is really only like 1800 pips. So if we're gonna get that big ass volume at the beginning, fuck. You know, and then looking at the entry, you know, if I probably would have entered in, I don't know, someplace near this level like this. I mean, looking at gold zone, there's about 800 pips to gold zone. So you got time to get into an entry like that and move stop loss to get you in profit on an entry like that. Full port 630 type of shit with volume. Right? Those, and because there are days when the gold zone is closer to where our entry would have ended up. Those are the ones that I'm like, maybe not. Because, well, there's less room in between the entry and the next gold zone, right? If there's only like 300 pips or 400 pips in between the entry and the gold zone, I prefer not to. I mean, I would, but I won't full port. I'll like one contract, right? Anytime something doesn't feel right, I'm just one contracting it. I'm never full porting that type of shit. So we got some rejection here. Even though my entry's in profit, only like $25, but I'm gonna go move my stop loss into profit at $20 because once again, I'm not worried about the dollar amount. I'm worried about this candlestick movement. And if we're rejecting R1, there is a chance that we're not going to continue up. But I'll move into profit, so I can't lose money, right? I can't lose pips on this. Later, Yuzo. And I'm currently, I'm looking at Nas as Nas. It's pushing its way down. I mean, you look at Nas is just opposite of US30 today. I'm gonna buy on US30 and I'm gonna sell on Nas. Small one. I'm also only one lot. Even the mini on Nas is worth like triple one lot on US30. So I'm in it only one, but even on this one Nas entry, I'm up like $90 right now. And it's this. I used the same juice entry. I'm not saying trade Nas, but I've just been I've been. I mean, you guys know. You guys can see it. I've been watching it, how it moves more like US30 lately. Today is complete opposite, which is good because I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, shit. If it's like literally the complete opposite, then yeah, I'll take this bitch down. But Nas is it's worth more. So if you can't do US30, I would not tell you to trade Nas. So I just got tapped out of US30 right there. Nas is looking like it wants to come down more. And looking at where things are at right now, it's 737. The movement is stuck there at R1. I just exited my Nas entry because we're getting some support there. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, US30 is getting its resistance, Nas is getting its support. Something about these areas that price is at is janky for the both of them, so I'm only at like $85. I mean, I'm on 3 accounts, but for a single account, I'm only up $85. But to me, that's good. To me, that's good that I'm able to break a profit with the movement right now on US30. Like, US30 didn't do a damn thing yet. US30 barely fucking moved. I gotta take a quick call, guys. Give me 1 second. Alright, I'm back. So price is fighting the gold zone. So we'll see how this goes into 8 o'clock. I'll probably give this day till about 8:15. It's not a lot that's happening. Not a lot that's happening. I bet it'll run towards the end of the day. And that's always it, right? Like if it doesn't run at the beginning, it runs towards the end. But yeah, I'm only up 85.52. 85.52 times 3, 256.56. So $260 day if I just end here. And that's good. That's I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. Considering what I do to make this money, I am grateful for every penny. Plan is trading 6:30 until 9. I'm trying to stay like that. Yeah. Well, if price doesn't make its move by like 8:15, then I know the move is probably gonna come closer to 10 o'clock. So that's why I usually am off by like 8:15 or 8:30. Unless I see price ranging, right? Then I'll wait for it to break out. But the 9 o'clock, it's a weird lull, you know, like it's an in-between time where like sometimes nothing happens until 10. So that's the only reason why I'll usually, you know, I'll look for that push of volume at 8:10, 8:15, and if it doesn't hit, I'll just be like, well, okay. Probably ain't coming till like 10 o'clock. But it's good. I mean, everybody needs to set their own parameters, right? Like you got to tell yourself, I'm going to stay on the chart from 6:30 to 8:15. I'm going to stay on the chart from 6:30 to 9 o'clock. I'm going to stay on the chart. And what you want to do is, when you backtest, you gotta work on just that time frame. You gotta just go to whatever day you're looking at, days, and you gotta look 6:30 to 9 o'clock, 6:30 to 9 o'clock, and just only care what happens in between that time frame as you're backtesting. Would you look for a sell since we're at a push? I mean, I'm always, right? Like, I'm looking for the buy, I'm looking for the sell. And would you look for a sell since there was a push up already? And OB? What's OB? Ah, shit. I'm over here fucking sounding like an uncle. Ah, what are you talking about? Ah, what is this whippersnapper language? OB. Yes, I would be. But why we would need to be more patient for the sell-off? Well, because perp is down there, and we're still in an uptrend structure, right? Things are up. If price was to come down from here, because it's the first rejection, this could be the first higher high, right? Like that's the thing that makes it hard about trading against structure. Is like, right? I'm zooming out right now, and I'm gonna start to draw. So if this is an uptrend, what can we expect? We can expect price to go up, reject, make a low, make a higher high, you know, make another low, a higher low, then it'll make another higher high, and so on, right? That is what we can expect from a uptrend structure. So to get into a sell, knowing that we could still possibly be in an uptrend structure, it means when you're taking this sell off, you know, you gotta be cautious and manage price in case it does still want to bounce up over here. So I'm fine with looking for a buy. I'm fine with looking for a sell, as long as you're mapping it out, right? You're just like what we just did right here. You map it out so that you know what to expect before it even happens, and you're good. I would say look for both of them. I mean, I'm down to look. I'm right now. I'm not currently looking for anything. If it happens, I'll take it. Right? Like if all that happens, if perp gets higher up, if price rejects the gold zone hard and we drop, yeah, sure, I'll look for that. If we break hard to the top side, even though we are against cross lines, I would probably want to take that up too, because we're still in an uptrend structure. Because this might not be where the rejection happens, right? The high or the peak of this uptrend could still be like right here, R2 maybe, right? It could just make a straight push, and then we might reject, then we might go up like that. That's the part that we don't know. But drawing it all out and seeing it in your head like we're doing right now, that is what's going to be the kicker for you to make a decision and then make the most out of the decision. Because right now all we do know is that price doesn't want to break R1. That's all we know for a fact. We know for a fact that price is here ranging right underneath R1. Whatever happens after that, if you have reasons to enter, enter. You know, we haven't moved very much, right? Even for the whole day. The whole day we've only moved 2,500 pips, let's say. We've only moved 2,500 pips. You know, let's start looking at the average of these past couple days. High of yesterday to the low, that's 5,000. Day before that, high low, it's almost 6,000. Before that, a little over 6,000. Before that, a little over 5,000. Before that, about 5,000. So the past couple weeks we average about 5,000 to 6,000 pips. So knowing that, looking at what we are dealing with right now, right? Do some basic math here. We've only moved 2,500 pips. At a minimum, if we're basing this off of the last week and a half or two, we should be expecting price to go at least a minimum of 2,500 more pips, right? That's just the basic math of what we've been seeing over the last week and a half. So if this breaks up, yeah, I would feel confident enough to take it up. If this breaks down, I would feel confident enough to take it down. You know, as long as we're within that range, anything's possible. Once things get beyond 5,000 pips, that's when I would be like hesitant to want to take the continuation, right? But that also makes it better to take the reversal, right? Like you're looking for the sell. It would be better for us to let this go 5,000 pips and then look for the rejection, because we know on average price will go the 5,000 pips and then turn around, right? That's how we use all of this data to make our decisions. I wouldn't mind taking a sell-off here, not at all. If we had ran 5,000 pips and we were at the gold zone, even better, right? Because then now you have that daily average as another reason to get into the rejection. And I'll be real, trading rejections is hard. The reversal, like reversal trading, is probably the hardest thing to do, because there's so many false positives. You know, like even right now, as prices just here stuck at R1 gold zone, any little movement to the downside could look like the beginning of the reversal, and that's hard to pinpoint, you know. And that's why for the reversals, that's why I started perp, right? Perp helped us to not get bamboozled by fake reversals. Because look at this now. Price is continuing up, right? Whereas price relative to perp still above. So really, I don't give a shiitake mushroom what price does unless we're near perp. Like perp is not always, but a high percentage of the time, I'm making my decision off perp. And even today, right? My decision today to get in at 635, literally just right off of perp. You know, the only other one that I would consider is like this one here at 720. You know, and then you would ask maybe, okay, why wouldn't I get in here off this hammer? Or why wouldn't I get in here off of this bullish engulfing? Well, looking at Control Z, you know, once 630 and 635. So for continuation entry, I would. And okay, so now good. We're asking all the right questions. What happens to price when it gets further away from perp? And the same with the 500. What happens when price gets away? It draws back to it. Correct. So that's why it's a double-edged sword. Like, you guys got to remember, all of these indicators are double-edged swords. They can hurt you just as much as they can help you. And that's why it's never perfect, right? Like, even till this day, I still have people asking me, like, for like the for sure answer. And I'm like, there's no for sure answer. Because all of these indicators can fuck you. But the point is, there's ways to use them all so that they're highly likely not to fuck you. So, once again, if we know that price is further away from perp, that means the likelihood of price rejecting back down to it is likely to happen. So to take a continuation while price is a decent ways away from perp, right? Like, let's look right now. You know, to where price was on that hammer right there, because I'm sure that's why you're asking. On this hammer, you would have been about 6, and probably even more than that, because perp's probably like right over here at this candle. So that's about 671 pips away from perp. And if we look at the entry, right, the entry would mean we're risking, because we're going to go underneath, right? So we're risking 515, right? And tell me, does that make sense? Would it make sense to get into an entry that you have to risk 515 pips, but you know that there is a likelihood that price might come down 600, 700, 800 pips? It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense to get into an entry where your stop loss is 500, but you know that price might dance around 6, 7, 800 pips. Why? Because what can price do? Price can go back to perp and then bounce off of it, right? So it's like you would need to have your stop loss way underneath perp, and then all of a sudden you're risking like 800 pips. Well, that doesn't quite make sense, right? So it's it's a real yin and yang thing with all of these indicators, and that's why even like right now, I would be doing nothing, right? I would still be wanting to wait for perp to get up a little higher, and if price breaks down and below, great. Price is overbought, rejection of the gold zone, price pushes underneath perp. Easy sell-off entry. Take the reversal if you want to. To take the continuation here, you know, just like how when price was over here, and that's why even though this is a whole bunch of clutter, you know, from 630 all the way up to about 715, 720, it may look like clutter because price is just going sideways, but just look at the personality of these candles. There's more wicks to the bottom and this uptrend line from London than anything else. So if price is tilting upwards and we're getting wicks to the bottom, I'm telling myself, yeah, maybe I just got to shut the hell up and just be patient. And I had to. Because as I'm in this at 635, if I'm panicking every time price pushes down, I'm screwed. Right? But I keep my calm. I'm okay with losing that entry. And I'm letting these candles speak to me. Every time I see a wick to the bottom, I'm happy. I'm like, okay, price doesn't want to go down, so it probably is going to go up. Over here, 705, price doesn't go down. How come I didn't add at 720? Because I'm scared that it's not going to break still. Right? The same place that, the same reason why I didn't add here, exactly. Yeah. I didn't add at 655 because, well, that bitch just turned right around. You know, I didn't know price was going to turn around, but I do know that I can just be safe and not add to it, you know. And that's what then I got to do the math in my head, right? I got to say, okay, if I add contracts here at 655, you know, how much do I have left? How much room do I have to the gold zone so that I can move stop loss into profit in time? You know, 554. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. But if these wicks didn't exist, I would feel better, right? Looking at 720, you know, 720 for me, it wasn't some place where I wanted to add anything. It was some place that I was, that confirmed. It confirmed for me to still stay in my entry. So it wasn't some place that I was going to add to it. You know, I would have, if price didn't make this big ass push here on the very next candle, maybe I might have entered in a little bit more, but unfortunately it didn't. It pushed right into the gold zone, and I had no time to add to it. So I'm really like, I preach what I do and I do what I preach, right? I'm never gonna put myself into a bad position. I don't care how good these candles are moving, because look at it right now. You know, when price went up over here at like 725, I did not know price was going to reject the gold zone, right? I don't know for a fact it's going to reject it, but I do know that it could reject it. So why would I, right? Like, why would I put myself in a bad position when I can, one, just take my profits right there? You know, and then that same aspect, that's the same thing I think about, right? When 720 hits, I'm already thinking about when price gets to the gold zone, right? Do you guys get that, right? Like playing that game of chess at 635, right? Even at 635, as I get into my buy one contract, I'm already playing out what I'm going to do if and when price gets closer to the gold zone. I already know. I'm already knowing in my head. So yes, that's why it always seems like, oh fuck, Ed, how the fuck are you, forecasting the future and shit? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just taking a risk, and I'm playing it out in my head far before it happens. So that when it does happen, I'm like, okay, good, cool. That's exactly what I was expecting, right? Talking it out, too. I tell you guys all the time, like, if you believe in what I say, or even if you disagree, talk it out loud to yourselves over there, within your room, or wherever the hell you guys are. Because saying this shit out loud, like most problems in life, if it's stupid, you're gonna hear it. You know? Like, I sound stupid a lot of the time, but it's me doing what most people are not willing to do. It is willing to feel at risk of looking dumb or of looking like a failure, only to figure out what the success part of it is. You know, like me talking all this out, and people be like, oh, isn't it a waste of time? Like, waste of time to figure out why it's not going to work or why you don't want it to work? I'm like, that's the problem. Everybody always thinks that way. They're only looking to add reasoning to the entry, and they're not looking at the reasoning not to get into the entry. Same thing with life. How many decisions do people make, and even yourselves? Think about decisions that you guys have made in your lives that you made it purely based on the good things that can happen, right? All the good things that can happen, I'm sure there's multiple at this point in our lives. I can admit it too. There are multiple decisions that I've made in my life where I was only looking at the positive things about it. And well, once again, I can handle the failure, but when it didn't do what I was expecting it to do, I did feel some type of way. I felt stupid. I was like, well, shit. I should have thought about that, right? How many times do we do something and then we're like, oh, damn, I should have thought about that part. I forgot about that. Oh, I didn't think about that. That's what I try not to let happen with trading, especially trading. I try to look so far ahead with every single move that I know what's going to happen an hour from now, right? Like even when we're about to get off the charts and I'm like, well, here's what I'm looking for if I was to stay on. That's me forecasting the chess moves. Like I'm not just, we're just forecasting the chess moves. Just like how I try to forecast it at 6:30. That's the same thing I can do at any point of the day, because the data is always the same, right? What we know, price is going to make the gold zone movement, right? Look at what happened today. Price went and got magnetized to R1, and now we're stuck here. That is something that all of you guys know. All of you guys know at 6:30, at some point, price was going to get magnetized to one of these gold zones, right? And if you don't, you better speak the hell up, because that's the juice you got to drink. That's the juice I talk about. You got to drink that shit. You got to believe in the gold zones. That the gold zones are going to pay our bills. The gold zones have been paying my bills for years. Once you can believe in that, you're good. You're good. Everything else will just support whatever the gold zone movement is, right? 6:30, we haven't touched the gold zone. We're tilting up. All the same shit that I went over. All of that just supports price getting magnetized to R1. And then if I'm wrong and price doesn't go up to R1, well then what's the only other thing that can happen? Well, it can go down to P gold zone. We'll get to that one. We'll cross that bridge when it happens. But until it happens, I'm still believing in the up. I'm still believing in the buy up. And it's not blindly. It is looking at the wicks to the bottom. It is looking at the uptrend. It is looking at all this, all perp. And just taking the risk, accepting that no matter what happens, we'll figure it out, right? Even as price gets up to R1 gold zone, I already had it in my head that I'm going to move stop loss. I'm going to move stop loss. It is. I wouldn't lie to you guys about it being difficult to be consistent, but the learning curve that you guys are at right now to be consistent is going to be the smallest. Like the biggest learning curve was actually just getting on the charts, implementing the strategy, and getting used to it. Like it feels like it's the longest part and the hardest part, the consistency part, but it's not, because it's just a switch that's going to flip on in your head that's going to say, okay, just be patient. and once that happens, you're going to be good. You're going to be good. Because it's not, it's, like I always be saying, ready is not a mentality. Ready is a decision. Right? So being ready to stay disciplined, that's a decision that you guys make. Being ready to stay patient, that is a decision that you guys make. It's not a feeling, it's not a theory, it's not an idea. It is a literal, tangible, physical thing that you guys are going to do in your head at some point, and you're going to say, you know what? I am going to be patient. You know what? I'm going to be disciplined. When that moment happens, the revelations start. Because it really is exactly like that. It's a fucking light bulb moment, and you're like, oh yeah, shit, yep. And here we are, right? We're at 810, and price is still did that little hammer kind of, purpose pushing up on it, the previous candle. We got price kind of, ranging here on the gold zone. Thinking about the average of the day and where price could possibly go. Up, right? Look at our breakout. Look at the breakout of the 630 candle. We've only moved less than 1,000 pips from the breakout. We've only moved 737 from the wick of 630. There's going to be movement, right? There's going to be movement. It's the same thing as if we were to look at the past days, right? Like looking at the past days, it's almost silly. It's almost silly when we look at this and we're like, shit, yeah, that came down huge. Like as a fact. Even from when we started over here and price started to move up, price came up huge, right? And it kind of makes you think how silly we are to not be patient and then when it happens to not be confident in it, right? I'm very data driven. Like shit has to make sense for me to do it. For me to spend time with you, for me to talk to you, for me to build a relationship with you, for me to have a friendship with you, for like anything, it has to make sense. And it, well, not always, but no, it needs to. There needs to be data that makes sense. And whether it's just companionship, whether it's a good time, whatever the fuck, right? There's motivation behind at least what I do. When I look at the charts, and I know that even just a week ago, price was all the way up here and made that drop down. Looking before that, price was way down over here and price shot way up. What does that tell me? Like that tells me that price moves. Right? It's a silly thing to like really think about on a very, very simple level. Price moves. Price goes up, price goes down. So when we're in these moments when price ranges and we don't know where price is going to go, think about that. And think about how silly you are to not just be patient knowing that price is going to move thousands of pips, And I'm not speaking directly to anybody. I'm speaking general, even to myself, right? I always got to remind myself, price moves, Ed. Price will continue to move, so just wait for it to speak clearly to us. I like it. It's, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done, and now it's one of the easiest things I've ever done. And that shit just, that's the rewarding part. Even if it didn't have money involved, if this was like a real game or something, I would be great at this shit, And everybody can too. I'm telling you, it's just, once again, there is not a lot of people, relative to the world, there's not a lot of people who stay consistent with trading. But you can. You can once you realize all these things. It's just a decision. Being ready is just a decision. Being ready to be patient, it's a decision that you just make and you do it. So we got price pushing through the gold zone now. But things are so overbought on everything. So as I'm looking at US30, US30's kind of hit a wall here at R1 and this level. I'm looking at NAS, which I was looking at as well. It's also hit a wall too. So everything's kind of at a standstill right now. Coming into 813. I don't really want to buy up while overbought. And just make sure you guys know that you can do this. I was talking to, who the fuck was I talking to? Oh, I was talking to McConan yesterday. Because McConan, one of my singer friends, he pretty much needed to fire his entire team. And he and I both get along really well because our mindsets are the same. And there is a there is a disease that we like to call it. It is the peasant to king disease. Or victim. Here in Portland, it's probably more labeled as victim. But the peasant to king disease, which maybe there is a real diagnosis, but it allows you to fail. And I've talked about this before, but for most peasants like ourselves, if you don't think you deserve to be king or queen, well, then you're going to find all the reasons that you can't do it. And then when you fail at it, you're going to be like, well, it's because I'm not meant to be king or queen. Like I told you, I'm supposed to be peasant. The whole victim thing. That shit's real. That shit is real. And the majority of the world has that disease where when they fail going after something that they want, and if they fail, the first thing they're going to say is, well, yeah, because I told you I'm not meant to be king. I'm not meant to be queen. I'm supposed to be here peasant. Don't fucking think that. Like, if you guys think that, and it makes sense because the majority thinks that, right? And the majority acts like that. The moment that something doesn't go their way, what is the first thing they'll tell you? Oh, it was a joke. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, this, and this, right? That shit's common. When somebody doesn't succeed at something, the first thing they're going to say is all of the reasons why they knew from the beginning they weren't going to succeed. And it's like, well, then you're a little fucking bitch. You know what I mean? Like, your little bitch is from the beginning. So, and it's like, it's a judge of character. Because you're going to tell me you've come all this way, and once you get a little taste of maybe a little bit failure, you're going to tell me all of this work that you guys put into whatever, trading, into life, into a relationship, into a job. You're going to tell me this entire time you thought that you couldn't do it? Like, no, you didn't, right? It's just an excuse to reinforce why you failed at this point in time. And that holds a lot of people back from going full force failure, right? Like really getting into trading and really taking the losses and understanding and not being afraid to fail, because it's embarrassing, right? Like sometimes it's like, oh shit, whatever it is in life, it's not even trading, but people don't want to do shit because they're afraid to get embarrassed. And it's like, well, who's the only fucking person that is thinking that? It's really only you. So it's a fucking disease. It's a mental disease that the majority, and once again, it's probably why I'm censored on Instagram right now. But the higher up people, they want you guys to feel this way. They want you to feel like you don't deserve to be at the top. You don't deserve, and that's a reflection, right? That's why the working class and the poor make up like 80% of the world. Because they've done a good job at making everybody feel like they don't deserve to have what the successful people have. But don't do that. Just get that shit out. Get that shit out, and you'll realize, like, the better people that you probably look up to and want to be friends with or want to associate with, all of a sudden they're going to be there for you. Because I didn't start here, right? I didn't start top of my life, not just with trading, but with friends and the group of friends and my network that I have now. I didn't start with a silver platter. I didn't start knowing millionaires and people who travel in jets and helicopters and shit. I was not born into that class, not at all. But I did believe almost to a blind fault that I deserved to have what they have. The happiness, the comfort in life. I knew that I deserved that, right? I didn't even know the peasant to king thing was a thing, because in my head I wasn't a peasant. In my head I was just a king that wasn't there yet. I was just a king that didn't find his crown yet. I was never a peasant. I was never a peasant that didn't think. I was never a peasant thinking he was going to be king. I was always a king trying to figure out my way, right? And that's the difference with how majority of people will think, and it reflects in everything everybody does. So we got that big push there. That's too far away for me to want to enter in, though. But it's making its way up. I mean, look at price relative to perp. It's still going up. So for me, there's still no real entry to get back in. Yeah, that's about it. So we're pulling up on 820. I'll give this day to 830. Maybe price might reject. Maybe there might be another support off of R1 and perp. Maybe I'll get in there. But at the moment, nothing real for me. Nothing that makes sense to risk what I already made for the day. But yeah, think about that, guys. All of my friends always say that I always seem very, very, very confident. And I'm like, okay. Like, you guys can too. Nobody knows the shit that you guys are going through, right? Like, nobody knows how broke or how poor or how successful or what you deal with. Nobody knows your family problems. Nobody knows your friend problems. Nobody knows your guys' relationship problems. Nobody knows who you guys are, right? And like, that's the biggest thing that McConan and I always talk about is social media and how it has made everybody just so worried about how the world looks at them that it trickles into your daily lives. Like yesterday when I was at the gym, I was talking to another friend of mine, African dude, and he's like, Ed, every time you come into the gym, everybody knows you. Everybody says hi to you. Everybody wants a piece of your time. Everybody, the workers, the people, the gym members. And I'm like, that's just it. Like, my life might seem so much more happy, but it's only because I still connect on a human level with people, right? Like, those few minutes, or like I was talking to Kathleen and her sister, two older ladies. I was talking to them for like an hour and a half yesterday. And they were like, why are you still talking to us? Like, don't you have things to do? I was like, yeah, but I value your companionship. I value this conversation that we're having. She was like, that's so genuine. I was like, yeah, it's crazy that you have to put a label on it. Like, it's crazy that we're living in a world where just genuinely caring about somebody is surprising. That's pretty fucked up, But, we got to use that to our advantage. That's what we're planning on doing in a good way to, make business and make money. That will hopefully get people to be conscious of it. So, but it's not, like, when I'm in the gym and, I'm friends with everybody. I'm friends with the biggest motherfuckers, the strongest motherfuckers in there. And then I'm friends with the old ladies in there that do their freaking Pilates class and shit. And everybody's like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, because nobody's better than the next person. Like, nobody's better. I'm not better than anybody. Like, there's always something for me to learn or to take away. And everybody's always thinking the next person's out to get them. So to have somebody like me who just doesn't give a fuck other than just purely creating a good ripple in the world, I could see how that's so valuable to the people around me. So, but yeah, you guys can be that person too. That shit, it pays off. It pays off to be just a genuinely good human. Because there's so many things in my life that I've done that I've not been repaid monetized, like with money, monetarily, but I've been paid with resources. I've been paid with love. I've been paid with benefits, amenities. Like, there's things outside of money and value that to me mean more. But yeah, just I don't know. It does start with you. So to me, it's second nature. It just happens. 824. Nas is making its way back up. US30 is making its push through R1. I'm looking at this bullish engulfing here at 815. What is that, like 600-700 pips maybe? Oh, less. I should have measured that out. But still, that entry puts us a decent ways away from the gold zone. That puts us about 600 pips away from the gold zone, so that's risky. Yeah, because there was no real good entry here through the gold zone. Possibly 750, but that would have been the first hammer through. I probably wouldn't want that. Rejection here. Maybe this hammer. Hammer at 8 o'clock. That wouldn't have been too bad for one. And then possibly add as this volume comes in. But even there, like, to look at this hammer at 8 o'clock to where price went, I guess that's a decent amount. That's 700 pips. The price right now is rejecting, so we'd be still positive, but like 300. See, and price is making its big ass rejection right now. I might stay on a little longer. I might stay on to see if we support the gold zone in perp.
The wrong things, like sitting on valuable land instead of building on it, or government departments shuffling paper instead of innovating. So the first target is to rewire that whole system, and that starts with tax. This brings us to the first major pillar of the plan, rewiring the tax system. And we're not just talking about raising or lowering taxes a little bit. This is a fundamental shift in what gets taxed in the first place. And this slide just illustrates the core idea perfectly. Right now, the UK puts heavy taxes on things that can easily move. A skilled worker can decide to work less, or a big company can just decide to invest its money somewhere else. The AI's plan is to flip that completely. Stop taxing the things that can run away and start taxing the things that can't, the physical land of the country and the pollution we create on it. Now, the absolute cornerstone of this new system is something called a land value tax. And this is crucial. It is not a tax on your house or the building you've put up. It's a tax on the value of the actual patch of ground it sits on. The whole idea is to make it really expensive to hoard valuable, undeveloped land, which creates this powerful incentive to actually build something useful on it. And it would replace a whole trio of taxes: stamp duty, business rates, and council tax. Now, obviously, a change this massive can't happen overnight. You can't just flip a switch. So the plan lays out a clear, phased approach. Step one is immediate. Get rid of stamp duty, which the plan argues just gums up the whole economy. Then you start building the modern data system you need to value all the land, before finally rolling out local trials to test the whole thing out. So, fixing the tax system is part one. The next step is all about unlocking investment, and it focuses on the two things that really drive
Big
the
rejection.
modern economy: capital and skills. The budget points out this huge and kind of weird misalignment in the current system. The government gives out really generous tax breaks to companies that buy new robots
dropping
and fancy computers,
massive.
investing in physical capital. But there's practically nothing for companies that invest in human capital, actually training their staff to be more skilled and productive. So this blueprint fixes that with two big new incentives. First, it makes something called full expensing permanent. That's the 100% tax deduction for buying machinery. Making it permanent gives businesses the certainty they need
The
to
fuck's
plan
going
for the
on?
long term. And second, it creates a
Dropping like
brand
it's
new
hot.
capital tax credit, finally putting investing in people on a level playing field with investing in machines. Okay, so taxes are rewired and investment is unlocked. The final pillar of this whole plan is the state itself. The goal here is to engineer radical, almost unbelievable efficiency right into the heart of government. And this chart, wow, this really shows you the mountain they have to climb. For decades, public sector productivity has grown at a snail's pace, just 0.2% a year. But all the current government spending plans are based on it suddenly growing 5 times faster, at 1% every single year. If that leap doesn't happen, the entire budget just falls apart. So, the AI Chancellor's answer isn't to just demand cuts, it's to engineer...
The Chancellor!
The target is a colossal...
I wish I was a Chancellor.
...pounds in productivity savings. And the main tool for getting there is, you guessed it, technology. So how on earth does it deliver those savings? Well, the plan involves using AI to automate all the boring admin work, migrating services online to cut costs, and using clever analytics to predict and stop fraud. But here's the real kicker, the genius incentive part. Departmental funding would get tied directly to hitting AI adoption and efficiency targets. If you don't improve, your budget is at risk. Simple as that. So, when you put all three of these pillars together, the tax reform, the new investment incentives, and the AI-powered state, what you get is the blueprint for a whole new kind of economic machine. And this table really lays out how that machine is balanced. You've got the land value tax and the public sector AI, which both boost growth and bring in revenue. To balance that out, the new investment tax credits cost money up front, but they're designed to supercharge growth in the long run. You can see how every single part is laser focused on aligning incentives to get a specific outcome. And that brings us right back to where we started. The ultimate goal of this incredibly complex, radical machine is to close that 21 billion pound fiscal hole. But it wants to do it not by making the economic pie smaller through painful cuts, but by engineering a bigger, more productive, and more efficient pie for everyone. Of course, this is all just a theoretical blueprint, a thought experiment, but it leaves us with a really fascinating and kind of profound question. If we could actually build an economy based purely on cold, rational, logical incentives, would it actually be a better one? Or are there crucial human factors that the logic of an AI just can't compute? That's definitely something to chew on.
Support, 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 support.
This single equation spawned 4 multi-trillion-dollar industries and transformed everyone's approach to risk.
Do you think that most people are aware of the size, scale, utility of derivatives?
No.
All right, today we're diving into something pretty wide.
Give me a doji. Give me a doji. Oh, Gucci. I was planning on not staying on this long, so. But I'll keep everybody posted. Alright, Daniel. Enjoy your day.
If you've heard of the Kardashev scale before, it's probably because you're a fan of science fiction. If you haven't heard of it, it is a way of classifying civilizations, especially those of an extraterrestrial nature, based on how much energy they consume. So it might sound like it came straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster, but the Kardashev scale actually has some very serious scientific thought behind it. It's also more than just a guide in humanity's continuing search for extraterrestrial intelligence. This scale can help us predict the next steps in our own advancement and even anticipate some of their side effects. It can even prompt us to ask some big questions, like what do we value and what do we want to work towards long term as a species? So let's take a journey through the scale that goes from a few blue whales at one end to our potential intergalactic overlords at the other. We've had radio telescopes focused on the sky for more than 65 years now, and while most scientists think that we haven't spotted any alien civilizations in that time, or any alien individuals for that matter...
It's a decent candle, but there's no volume. What time is it? 8:34. I don't want to risk what I want, but that's a nice hammer. I wish there was more volume in it. Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle. And we're still heavy overbought. Fuck. Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle Edward. I don't know. Overbought and perp is right there. The gold zone is what? 1,300 pips away. That would make only 4,000 pips in movement for the day. Oh, you know, if I wasn't in profit already, I probably would, but I'm not risking my profit for an overbought buy. I'm looking left to see where we're at. We're in a bunch of range. I mean, R2 would make sense. It is a bunch of highs over there. No, I can't risk my profits. I don't care if it's only 85 bucks. I won't risk my profits on a second entry if it ain't perfect.
In individuals for that matter, it's still important to know what to look for. That's what Nikolai Kardashev was thinking about in 1964 when he created the scale that would eventually bear his name, or at least an anglicized version of his name. Kardashev figured that the more energy a civilization consumes, the easier it would be to detect its radio signals from our neck of the woods. So he defined a Type 1 civilization, that's a Roman numeral 1, as using close to what humanity was using at the time, around 40 quintillion ergs per second. If you don't know what an erg is, I don't blame you for that, so let's convert that to something more familiar. 4 terawatts. We were only using 4 terawatts per second back then? Oh my god, it's adorable. Meanwhile, a Type 2 civilization would harness all the energy of its own star, which would be 100 trillion times more than a Type 1. And a Type 3 would harness all of the energy of its own galaxy, 100 billion times more than Type 2. Sounds simple enough, and perhaps a little too simple, because in the decades since, countless scientists have iterated, edited, and expanded upon Kardashev's original idea. Probably the most famous of these was Carl Sagan. In 1973, he swapped the Roman numerals for Arabic, and then created an equation that would let you calculate decimal values if your alien civilization fell somewhere in the middle, which it seems like it might. To craft that equation, he started by defining the energy that you plug in to get a final value of 1. 10 petawatts, also known as 10 to the 16 watts. While that number is somewhat arbitrary, it started a pattern where each step of the scale adds another 10 zeros to the number of total watts. In other words, a Type 2 civilization consumes 10 to the power of 26 watts, which is roughly the output of the sun.
That shit is beyond my comprehension right now. What the fuck?
Democracy might be mathematically impossible. This isn't a value judgment, a comment about human nature, nor a statement about how rare and unstable democratic societies have been in the history of civilization. Our current attempt at democracy, the methods we're using to elect our leaders, are fundamentally irrational, and this is a well-established mathematical fact. This is a video about the math that proved that fact and led to a Nobel Prize. It's a video about how groups of people make decisions and the pitfalls that our voting systems fall into. One of the simplest ways to hold an election is to ask the voters to mark one candidate as their favorite on a ballot. And when the votes are counted, the candidate with the most votes wins the election. This is known as first-past-the-post voting. The name is kind of a misnomer, though. There is no post that any of the candidates need to get past. The winner is just the candidate with the most votes. This method likely goes back to antiquity. It has been used to elect members of the House of Commons in England since the 14th century, and it's still a common voting system with 44 countries in the world using it to elect its leaders. 30 of these countries were former British colonies. The US, being a former British colony, still uses first-past-the-post in most of its states to elect their representatives to the Electoral College. But first-past-the-post has problems. If you are selecting representatives in a parliament, you can and frequently do get situations where the majority of the country did not vote for the party that ends up holding the power. In the last 100 years, there were 21 times a single party held a majority of the seats in the British Parliament, but only 2 of those times did the majority of the voters actually vote for that party. So a party which only a minority of the people voted for ends up holding all of the power in government. Another thing that happens because of first past the post is that similar parties end up stealing votes from each other.
The 2000 US presidential election, which was an election essentially between Bush. At that point, every state in the nation used first past the post to determine the outcome of the election. Bush had more votes in Florida, but by a ridiculously slim margin. It was fewer than 600 votes. But there was another candidate on the ballot, Ralph Nader. Nader was a Green candidate. He was certainly to the left of either Gore or Bush.
What we need is the upsurge of citizen concern, people concern, poor, rich, or middle class, to counteract the power of the special interest.
And he got almost 100,000 votes in Florida.
I just don't know if I can, with a conscience, vote for Bush or Gore.
I will vote for Ralph Nader.
Most of those voters were devastated that by voting for Nader rather than Gore, they ended up electing Bush. This is what is called the spoiler effect. Almost all Nader voters preferred Gore to Bush, but in a first-past-the-post system, they had no way of expressing that preference because you could only vote for one candidate.
So first past the post incentivizes voters to vote strategically. Say there are 5 parties. One of them will be the smallest one, and so they won't win. Why would you vote for them? This is also true if you have 4 parties or 3 parties. This winner-takes-all voting system leads to a concentration of power in larger parties, eventually leading to a 2-party system. This effect is common enough that it has a name: Duverger's Law. So first past the post isn't a great option. So what else could we do? Well, we can say that a candidate can only win an election if they get a majority, at least 50% plus 1 of the vote. But what if we hold an election and no one gets a majority? We could go to the people who voted for the candidate with the fewest votes and ask them to vote again, but choose a different candidate. And we could repeat this process over and over, eliminating the smallest candidate until one candidate reaches a majority. But holding many elections is a big hassle. So instead, we could just ask voters to rank their preferences from their favorite to their least favorite, and if their favorite candidate gets eliminated, we go to their second preferences. When the polls close, you count the voters' first choices. If any candidate has a majority of the votes, then they're the winner. But if no candidate has a majority, the candidate with the fewest votes gets eliminated, and their ballots are distributed to those voters' second preferences. And this keeps happening until one candidate has a majority of the votes. This is mathematically identical to holding repeated elections. It just saves the time and hassle, so it's referred to as instant runoff. But the system is also known as preferential voting or ranked choice voting. And instant runoff doesn't just affect the voters. It affects how the candidates behave towards.
All right, y'all. I'm calling it.
Minneapolis mayor's race in 2013.
I need to get ready and
we were
get some
using
shit
it
done
for-
today, so
The incumbent mayor.
I will watch this. It's looking like it wants to move away from the gold zone. Once again, I just don't want to take it against being overbought, so this will be one of those times where I'll be okay with missing it, even if it does go up, but I will watch it. I mean, it will make sense if it goes up, still in an uptrend structure, breaking R1, still above perp. Yeah. It's just I'm gonna stick to my rules and not take that against being overbought after I've already taken a profit for the day. So alrighty guys. I'm out skis. What is today? Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Small little win for me. Little 256, 260-ish. I'm good on that. Once again, not every day is going to be a home run. I'm going to probably still look at this over the next hour and see where this goes, but I need to start getting some things together over here. So I got shit I need to get done by Thursday. So that gives me 2 days. Okay. Alright guys, trade safely. Don't be too eager to get into any fucking trades right now. Just let shit play out and maybe just watch it. Watch what it does here. But everything's kind of low volume right now, so if it's a low volume right now, I'm sure more volume will push in towards 10 o'clock, but I'm not going to be on till 10. So I'm alright with my little winner. I'll post my entry when I get a chance today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bright and early, everybody. Enjoy your day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Hasta luego. Goodbye, everybody.